Hi, I'm Tim and welcome to episode 9 of Beginning Fabrication. Another little job I thought we might have a look at doing on this Torana is part of the engine base smooth out. I hate lumps and bumps and holes and all that sort of nonsense. So these bits at the back, these funny indents, I make up little plates and weld over the top. You probably could shrink it and panel beat it flat, but I just find it's easier to weld a bit over it. So we're going to use the masking tape trick to get the shapes we need, and then I'll probably use a big piece of pipe to put the compound curve in it. So I'll get some bits and pieces sorted out and we'll get cracking on that. My first step was to cover the area in masking tape. I went out of my way to not push the tape into the grooves too much because I didn't want it to give me a false measurement. So it's kind of floating a bit, which is how I want it. So now I'm just going to go around with my pencil and mark all the edges, and then I'll know what shape to cut my pieces. You can see it's two pieces. I guess you could make one piece and overlap it, or you could cut this out and make it in one piece, but again, this is just how I do it. I find it quick and easy, and it doesn't take away from the structure of the car in any way. So now that that's done, I can peel the tape off in one big piece and stick it on a piece of metal, and then I'll start shaping it. So here's my two pieces. I'm actually going to cut this out in one piece for now and shape it as one piece, because little bits like this, trying to get them to curve without smacking your fingers or just being impractical is tricky. So I'll cut it out a little bit bigger than it needs to be. Let's grab my pencil. So I'm going to sort of come out probably 10mm off. Something like that. It's hard trying to draw when I'm looking through my phone screen. So that's roughly where I'm going to go. And then we'll start bashing it in the vise and see if we can get it to have a nice compound curve. To trim out these bits of metal, I'm going to use this throatless shear. This was less than 200 bucks, and it's really good for cutting curves. Another thing too, with things that are supposed to be bolted down, I like to be able to move stuff around as much as I can. So this is actually my old manual bead roller stand that I made. That's what all these pins are here for the old dies. But it's just bolted onto a wheel and tyre, so it's a pretty heavy wheel and tyre, so it's quite a stable thing and it's easy to move. So it's just another option that you don't always have to bolt things to a bench and have it completely fixed. You can have it so that it's somewhat portable if you need to, and this is how I have a couple of things mounted. Alright, so we're just going to trim around that dodgy pencil line I drew. I'll just make it up a bit as I go. Doesn't need to be crazy accurate at this stage because it's just the shaping stage, not the finishing stage. So the actual blade on this has got a curve in it, so I think that's part of what makes it so nice to use for cutting actual curves in the sheet metal. Just get some of this scrap out of the way. Got a straight shear as well, which is really good, but this throatless shear has just been excellent. Like I said, it wasn't particularly expensive. It was, I don't know, 140 bucks or something like that. Considering how much I use it, it's certainly been a good investment. Pick up my sharp bits. That's the thing. Obviously I didn't need it to be particularly neat, not at this stage, but if we look on the back you can see it does corners neatly and extremely easily. So it's one of those things, if you are looking at getting something, if you're going to do a lot of sheet metal work, these jiggers are excellent. Alright, so I've got a bit of 4-inch pipe in the vise, just loosely, and then I've got a bit of metal. So this is the top, so I'm going to hit it from the back because I want it to crown outwards from the top. I'm going to use a plastic hammer. We're just going to, we don't really want to stretch the sides, it's only the centre, so we're just going to move it around and try and push this centre part down. So it's ugly, but you can see how much it's curved it already. Normally I'd do jobs like this in the planishing hammer or the English wheel, but I figured this is just a good opportunity to do the vise trick again, so we'll keep going. The sides are crinkling up a bit, but that doesn't really matter because I've still got to stretch more, so that can pull this straight as I stretch the centre anyway. You can also just do this out in the lawn. If you've got nice soft grass, you can do this same thing, and essentially the ground will act as a leather bag, like a shot bag, forming bag. So I just thought, seeing as we'd already looked at the vise with the pipe in it, we'd revisit it. and have a look and see how that's starting to fit on the car. So it's actually fitting pretty well already, even after only a minute or two. So I'm just going to neaten this up now and get all those wrinkles out of it, and then this piece will be good to go. Once it's, I've still got to cut the separate pieces out, because you can see there's two recesses. But you can see it's, you know, it's lumpy and bumpy, but we can fine tune that now that we know that it's almost the right shape. So let's go and make it a bit smoother. So for the next stage, I'm just going to use this old dolly, panel beating dolly. You could use anything really that's got a slight curve, a rock, it really doesn't matter. You can use a piece of timber. It's really just a surface that I can hit against to straighten out the edges and just to smooth out some of the lines I've put in this. See already how much neater that is, and that's just using a dolly and the plastic hammer. So I might I'll stop you guys now, and then I'll finish this up and show you when I'm happy with it. Okay, so I gave that about another probably a minute. So like ideally I'd put that through the wheel just to get the lines out, or I could just use the metal hammer. But I've just done all of this with the plastic hammer. I'll try and get some reflection. You can see it's still got little bumps in it, but it's actually quite a smooth compound curve that, you know, took less than 5 minutes to make, and didn't need expensive tools to do it. So I might just go and do another trial fit, see how it looks. Well, sitting on there pretty nicely now, and considering I've still got to cut my little pieces out of it, so there's a lot more metal there now than needs to be, but it's just nice knowing that you've got a little bit of excess, because it gives you something to hang on to, so you're not smacking your fingers, and just allows you to fine tune things, because if you cut it to the exact right size and then started stretching it like what we just did, it's going to change shape and size anyway. So cutting things with just a tiny margin of excess, I just find makes things easier. Alright, so I couldn't really help myself. I spent about another minute giving this another tap around. I haven't worried too much about those edges because they're getting trimmed off. You can still see a bit of where the pipe has put lines in it. But to be honest, you can't feel them. You can see them in the surface, but they're not prominent in the actual finish on the metal. So, you know, call it, I don't know, still less than 10 minutes. It's not a bad shape considering that's all I used. So now that I'm happy enough with the shape, the reason I took the tape off before I started shaping it was because now I can just put it back on. I'll probably wait until I've got 2 free hands, but I can lay it back over that piece now and then cut these bits out, and that'll be my 2 pieces. There's the 2 bits trimmed out, sitting in place. I've just got a bit of tape on each one just to stop them sliding down, but they're fitting in there pretty well, I think. So the next step will be to put some weld through primer inside these cavities and weld them on. There's those two pieces welded in. I gave them a quick sand up, but I didn't spend too long, so I've still got to fix all of this and put the new sides on, so there's still heaps of metal work to go, but that just gives you a basic idea of how I smooth out the back part of these engine bays. So once the rest of the engine bays all smoothed out, it's nice and uniform and simple. So that's it. Cheers. This is just a quick little tip that I do. If you end up with a couple of these cheap toolboxes, or even if you end up with decent toolboxes, just label the drawers. My memory's terrible, so I find knowing what's in each drawer helps me a lot and saves me a bit of time going through everything trying to find one tool. When I labelled up this toolbox, I put everything in the toolbox first and then made the labels, so I knew what the label had to say. And then, just to prove what an idiot I am, I made up this label. It says $1 billion and a blown Hemi V8. But whenever I look inside it, it's not there. So sometimes labels are liars. Well, that's it for episode 9. I hope you enjoyed it. Got a real surprise for you guys next episode. That's a lie, there's no surprise. Alright, thanks again for watching and see you next time. Cheers, bye.